Hey guys, Chef Coletti here. How's everybody doing today? Okay, today we're gonna make butterscotch scones. Since it's fall holiday season, okay, we're still in the quick bread realm. I wanted to show you guys how to do a scone. They're great. They can be sweet for breakfast if you want, or they could be savory for breakfast as well, or lunch, or whatever the case may be. You could do a ham and cheddar scone, chocolate chip, cranberry orange. You could put nuts in it. You could put seeds in it. Okay, it's a super versatile recipe, kind of like the biscuit that we did, where you could put different things in it. So let's get started. I'm going to go over some measurements today because we haven't done that in a while. So let me turn you guys around here. And we're going to use a different piece of equipment today that we haven't used before. Okay. This is a food processor. It is going to cut the butter into the dry ingredients, just like we did with our pastry cutter, but it's going to take less time and less muscle, right? Less sweat and tears. So I just want you to remember when we measure flour, okay? Take the top off. When we measure the flour, we want to make sure that we are scooping the flour into the cup measure, okay? We don't want to scoop this in here. We want to take our spoon and we want to measure our flour this way, right? We never want to dig that cup measure right into the flour canister or the flour container or whatever the case may be. And then I'm just tapping to get the air bubbles out, and then I'm sweeping right across, right? A nice level cup. So we have 3 cups of flour that are going in this recipe. And you could put any kind of chips in there you want. It doesn't have to be butterscotch. If you don't like butterscotch, you don't dig butterscotch. You know, right now is the time of year where they have every flavored chip imaginable out there. Maybe you like peppermint. Okay, I saw peppermint chips out in the store the other day. Maybe you just want to do, chocolate chips or a variety of chocolate chips. Maybe you want to do, right now they have that multi chocolate chip pack out where it's like dark chips, milk chocolate chips, and white chocolate chips all in the same pack, right? Delicious. You could use that too. So we have our 3 cups of flour into our food processor. And when we're using the food processor, we always want to make sure that the bowl is locked, okay, and the blade is in. So the blade needs to be in the bowl before we even start to put any of our ingredients in there. So I have my 3 cups of flour, and to that, I'm going to do a half cup of brown sugar, okay? Half cup brown sugar. Remember, when we measure our brown sugar, we need to pack that in because it's so moist. Okay, and we know our brown sugar is measured correctly when we invert the cup and we get the shape of whatever we're measuring it in, right? So nice and packed. If I invert this, I get that nice brown sugar bowl. So that's going to go into our food processor as well. Just put this over to the side. I don't want my brown sugar to dry up. And then we're going to add 2.5 teaspoons of baking powder. 2.5 teaspoons of baking powder. Remember, baking powder is double acting. It will react when it comes in contact with a liquid. 2.5, and then again when it comes in contact with the oven. And I've got my oven preheating to 375 degrees. So my other dry ingredient would be salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Okay, so I have all my dry ingredients in here right now. Just going to tilt you up a little bit. And I have already cut up my butter and I've popped it in the freezer. So this guy locks in. Sorry, it's backwards. This guy locks in. And then we're just going to pulse. Just a couple of pulses, okay? We want to get the sugar and the flour and the baking soda and the salt all mixed together before we add our butter into this. Because remember, we're making a scone. We don't want to create a lot of gluten. And as soon as I add any liquid to this, I'm going to start creating gluten. So all of my dry ingredients are mixed well. Okay, I've got my butter. Excuse me. I've got my butter that I cubed up. Okay, little cubes. And then I put it in the freezer so it stays super cold. And I'm going to put this right in here. And then again, I'm going to put the lid on and I'm going to pulse. I'm going to just pulse. I kind of want that butter to start breaking up into some smaller pieces. I don't want to mix too much, but I need those butter pieces to become smaller, right? Because when the butter hits the oven, it's going to create steam, which is going to create a nice, tender, flaky product. So let's see how we're doing here. Take the lid off. That feels pretty good. So shake this off here. Make sure my bowl is dry. So now I'm going to take all of my dry ingredients and I'm going to put it in a bowl, separate bowl. I don't know if you can see this in here, but I've got little tiny pieces of butter all throughout my flour mixture, right? Little tiny pieces of butter. That's exactly what we want. So remember, I'm going to make a well in the middle. And I'm going to add a cup of my chips, my butterscotch chips. So this is a half cup measure, so that's one. I think I have just a cup here. And two. I got a couple left over. I'll throw those in there as well. Let me just mix those in first before I do my well. Should have done this first, okay? So mix these guys up. You want to get your chips to be a little coated with that flour mixture so that they kind of stay suspended in your dough and they don't fall down to the bottom, okay? I'll move this guy over here out of the way. Don't forget that I'm hooked up. Okay. So I need 1 egg, my liquids, right? 1 egg, a half cup milk, and a tablespoon maple syrup. I'm going to give it a little bit of maple flavor because butterscotch and maple go well together. And it's kind of those fall flavors, right? 1 tablespoon maple syrup. And then I need a half cup of milk. Remember, I'm going to bring that right up to the line. And if I can't see the measure when I look down, I've got to go down and become eye level, right? So I've got my egg and my maple syrup. I'm going to mix this up. Add my milk. Make sure all my liquids are mixed up really well. And I'm going to move this out of the way because I'm going to put my dough on here when I'm done. Maple syrup, egg, milk. Okay. Okay, so right into the middle I go. And then I can start mixing it with a rubber spatula, okay? Just kind of pulling those dry ingredients into those wet ingredients. Now this is where we don't want to overmix things, right? We want to make sure that we're getting it all mixed together, but we don't want to overmix. Now what I can do is I'm going to just get in there a little bit with my hands. Best tool in the world. And my dough is starting to come together. I'm going to turn it onto a piece of parchment paper. And then I just want to kind of let me come a little closer to you guys, even though this is a little warm, so you can see. All right. I just want to kind of bring everything together. And I can use the paper to do that so that I don't overmix things. It seems like it could be a little bit dry, but it's actually not. Okay, everything in there. We got a little bit of wet over here and a little bit of dry over there. So I'm going to just bring it all together. And again, right, if you don't like maple, you don't have to put the maple in. You could add different flavors. So I just want to create like a round disc. Just like that, okay? Get all this goodness in there. And then what I want to do before I bake this is I want to pop it in the refrigerator for, 10 to 20 minutes. If you could do it overnight and pop it in the fridge, that's even better. The longer you can leave it in the fridge, I wouldn't leave it in more than overnight because you won't get that chemical reaction as much as you'd like. But we want to make sure that our butter stays nice and super cold. I'm just going to flatten this down a little bit more so I get a nice round disc. So then I'm going to cut it like a pizza, and then I'm going to bake them in the oven. Okay, so I got 1, 2, and I'm just going to fold this guy up. Now I'm just going to grab the one I already did. It's in the fridge. I'm just going to switch these guys out. Be right back. Okay, and you could see that this is nice and firm. It's nice and cold. So I'm just going to open this up. And I'm going to grab my pan and my paper. Get this out of the way here. A little bit of our spray. And then I'm going to use my knife and I'm going to just section this like a pizza. So I cut it in half and then in half again. Now I got 4 quarters. Okay. And then I'm going to make them a little smaller. I think I'm going to do thirds. 1, 3. And then the last thing we're going to do is we are going to brush the tops with a little tiny bit of milk, okay? And then sprinkle them with just a little bit of regular granulated sugar, just like that. This probably could chill just for a little bit more. It's still slightly sticky, but I think it'll be just fine. And you could cut it any way you like. I like doing it in this shape. This is a traditional scone shape, that triangular shape. You could also scoop and bake these if you didn't want to go through the hassle. Mix everything together, take out your portion scoop, and then scoop and bake as well. Okay, just like that. Let me grab my brush. And I had milk in here before, so let me just put a little bit more milk in here. That's good. And then just a quick brush. And these are going to take about 15 to 18 minutes, okay? They should be nice and golden brown around the edges. They won't puff up too much, but you will get a little bit of puff out of that. And then I'm just going to hit the top with a little bit of sugar. So what the sugar does is it kind of gives it a little bit of a glaze, a little bit of a crunch. Obviously, if you wanted to put some pecans or pecans in here, that would be great too. Okay. So I'm going to pop this in the oven. I'm going to set my timer. And when we come back, I'm going to show you guys how to make a maple glaze. We'll finish our scones and we'll give them a taste test, okay? See you guys later.